Big Finish Productions.
If you allow me to end her life, then we could stop all this excessive exertion. I wouldn't need to run. You wouldn't need to run, and she wouldn't need to breathe. Doesn't that sound nice?
Doctor Who, Time Lord victorious. He kills me not.
Days since last mortality, 2023.
You must be disappointed that the number is so high.
It's called Brian.
Brian? What kind of name for an assassin is Brian?
2 planets away from Athana is... No, don't tell me. I know this. It is Genofin.
No, Hawker Selak.
What happened to Genofin?
Never heard of it.
Oh, this is vexing.
It's not about the statue. It's what it represents. Or rather, what its absence represents. When something as steadfast, solid, and fixed in time as the statue of Kithal just disappears, there must be something very wrong with time itself.
Big Finish. We love stories.
Hello and welcome to this bonus episode of Proctor Who. I'm your host Bob, and joining me on this one are Cliff, John and Suki. Craig unfortunately got involved in a sexual accident with a horse, so he's unable to join us this time. We are reviewing the next part in the Time Lord Victorious saga that we are on, the Big Finish audio He Kills Me Not, starring Paul McGann as the Doctor. Right, straight away I'm going to get this out because I repeat myself all the time with Big Finish stuff. I struggled to follow it the first time, but I have gone back and listened to it, and I do get it, and I do like it, and I love Paul McGann, love the production, etc. And particularly because it was recorded individually, so it was COVID. Everyone got sent home, so they weren't able to act together. They had to just record their bits at home under the direction of Scott Hancock, who has appeared on Proctor Who before. I did an interview with him a good while ago, and I'd be interested to hear from him again.
Name drop!
Yeah, name drop, indeed. So I'd be interested to hear from him again in regard to the Time Lord Victoria stuff. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I always enjoy Paul McGann, but I particularly enjoyed Brian the Ood Assassin. I find that always quite spooky and scary, but I think now I've got my head into it. Simple sort of space western kind of thing with a twist. Bit of a thumbs up from me. It didn't blow my mind, it didn't make me go, oh wow, this is the best thing I've read, but good standard Big Finish story, with obviously the bit at the end, which is the tie-in to the Time Lord Victorious saga, which was the Dalek appearing, capturing Paul McGann, which was from, I believe, Defender of the Daleks, wasn't it? The end of that comic book.
I reckon so. Yeah.
That's the tie-in, Time Lord Victorious. But I'll come on to you, lad. Suki, what did you think of this Big Finish audio?
I enjoyed it up to a point where the American accent suddenly popped in, and that took me out a lot, and then it put me off a bit, and I thought, then when I re-listened to it again, it was good. It was a really solid, good story, and I did enjoy it. It was like a western set in some sort of deserted town in the middle of nowhere, and I did enjoy it. The mystery of mystery of why the planet has changed, that I think is also maybe tied in with Time Lord Victorious lore, so that might be something that we might come across again later.
Talk about that, Suki, the mystery of the planet changing. I don't know if I got the plot thread of there's not been a crime, and they're sort of oblivious to crime because they don't want crime to be happening because it's been 2,000 odd days since there was.
That was that plot thread is because the doctor there. He had 2 patients. One was a villain, one was the deputy, and he decided to operate on the villain, which unfortunately the deputy then died because he was neglected. That's why that's there, because he doesn't want to have that sort of thing with the sheriff saying this is what. So that's why there's been no death. But the fact that the planet was supposed to be a planet with vegetation and a big massive green planet, and now it's some sort of arid like desert western town, like, right, and that's changed since the doctor last visited, right? He says it should be like this.
I see what you mean, right? So you think that could be potentially part of the tap, but
I think it's got future ones.
So
that's why I got as well. I thought
the big mystery was the planet isn't what the Doctor thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turned into Westworld or something like that. I don't know what.
Westworld, yeah, vibe. I like that. So you liked it, Seki?
Yes, I liked it. Yeah.
John,
After second listen.
Yeah, I listened to it once, literally a few hours ago. And I'm a bit confused as to why the Doctor didn't recognise the Ood for what it was when he landed. And he was it was the impression I got from just listening to the audio, because I'm not idea who Brian the Assassin is. But the impression I got was that it was just a normal person with a weird voice. But it's only a while later I figured out Ood is the tentacle, because somebody mentions tentacle face. So, like all audio, if you're not giving it 100% attention, you do kind of maybe lose. And if the voices aren't different enough, that tends to be a problem.
Yeah.
Felicity and Sophie, in particular, was the issue for me. They're turning into a Western bit. No, the accents and the things they were saying, which is too fucking folksy American yeehaw bullshit. I didn't like that. However, I did overall enjoy it.
Excellent. Cliff?
I thought it was a little too long for an audio book.
It was only about 50 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
45 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah. 45.
It's about 40 odd minutes.
I think it just. There's a few bits I just thought was either wasn't written very, very well, or I just wasn't getting it. So Brian, I thought was great. I knew what the Ood was. Couldn't understand why Sophie or the other girl just didn't turn around to the Doctor and tell him straight away and say this Ood guy's a proper nutter. They seem to be. I don't like it when they were doing all the slack-jaw accents, because I just felt that was a bit silly, and some of the times you could actually hear it break at the points. I understand from reading a little bit on the internet. Yeah, they did it at lockdown, but we do podcasts in lockdown. We do it all the time.
High quality podcasts in lockdown.
Boom. Yeah, I think so. We can do that. I did enjoy it though. I love McGann as the Doctor. My biggest mystery was the actual planet, and I love how it connects to the next one. I think the next two will connect to this. He's supposed to give us a better understanding of Brian and his past, hopefully something like that.
Every time you say the word Brian, I'm thinking Life of Brian. Every time.
I keep thinking Brian Murphy from Georgia.
And I did like the fact that they added same-sex couple, which I thought,
that's nice. I did like that.
That's good. Nice touch.
I mean, Brian, what I did love was there was a tiny bit of exposition, Cliff, to your question, in regard to why I didn't say whatever to Brian. When Brian explained that his ball, I love this ball gag as well.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah.
Mr. Ball, that was cool. It was a thought. It was as quick as a thought, which is quicker than a gun. That's why she couldn't speak or do anything, because he would just do that. And there's something so eerie with it being an Ood called Brian, and it kind of been a little bit funny, but you do believe that he will kill, at a moment's thought, kind of thing.
He has a couple of really interesting lines that do underline his chillingness. It's like. And when she says, how would it look like if you leave a trail of bodies behind you, and he replies, sometimes they make very pretty patterns. That was a great line. But I think one of the underlying mysteries for me is 2023 days since last death, and it was related to Craddock and that deputy. But the 2023 days is going to have significance because it was mentioned twice, at least twice. And I'm thinking that it felt like that perhaps because the Doctor's going there expecting one sort of planet and finding another. It might be some sort of reality bubble kind of thing. I don't know. It might be timey-wimey. It might well be timey-wimey. It could be because we've done that with one of the other ones where we've seen a planet at its primeval stage, and we've seen it in its advanced stage.
That was it.
It could be another one of those.
Oh, that'd be clever.
Because there's some exposition coming up, I think, in the books, which are in the next section of the Time Lord Victorious saga. What are you huffing at books for, John? I thought you liked books.
I'm not huffing at books. I do like books, but I have to read them.
Yeah, we do. We do have to read them.
I just like the touch of a book. That's all I like. Touch of a book. Don't want to read it, just like a touch of a book.
What Braille?
I'll audio book it. Happily.
Didn't know you could read Braille, Suki. That's brilliant.
I tell you, the actor behind Brian was superb. He was probably stand out as one of the best in it. I love how subtle he was. He was slimy in parts. He was manipulative. He was really well written, that character. I just think the people who played Sophie and Felicity, like John said, they didn't distinguish them enough. So to me, even though there was that threat of Brian, I sided with Brian because I thought I just kind of enjoyed his character. I'd like to see how far that you could take that one.
He did also say to Brian, bounty hunters can make excellent wall hangings.
Yes.
It's a fine line. It's a good line. I'm not going to argue with that.
The guy that played Brian, he's the guy that does the Ood, isn't he? The evil Ood in Satan's Pit and Planet.
I love them. I love that.
I love evil Ood.
It's when we first get introduced to them, though, isn't it? Is it on the Satan's Pit?
Yeah, Satan's Pit. Yeah. Impossible Planet, isn't it? I can't remember.
We also get a cantina reference. The bar is a cantina, which is a kind of like Latin American kind of bar.
Star Wars, I got Star Wars vibe.
In a place they call Moslin. It's very much like Mos Eisley to me.
Yeah, Star Wars vibe completely. I got on that as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I like it because of that. Because I think that was trying a bit.
I missed it, so maybe I don't know.
I think they could have done without the Western.
Could have done it in a different world.
It just didn't feel. I don't know what they was trying to get with it.
Why do a Western on a different planet? The tropes that make a Western are all particular to America in the 19th century. Doesn't make any sense to do it on a different planet.
I can understand having the theme of Western if he'd maybe journeyed back into
the accents,
England or something like that.
Why do the accents?
Just over the top.
Yeah, it's the accent that really put me off, as I says. If it had been just as a Western theme, but without the accents, right, it'd have been fine. But because it was a Western theme on an alien planet with accents, it just...
I think with audio,
plenty of.
So I just think with audio, they sometimes need to want to ram it home, and it was probably for that little bit of a comedic effect and all that kind of stuff, and they maybe like to ham it up a bit. I know what you mean. I think on first listen, I would definitely agree with you. After subsequent listens, I grew with it, and it was all right. Sorry, Cliff.
No, I was going to say, West Space Western has been done really well in other films. Like, the way they've done it is like a Western set in space. But I don't think they need to go that far and go and be all the slackjaw and, typical is walking into the bar and all this stuff. Just, you can't picture it correctly in your head as you're listening to it. I'm just thinking it doesn't work well to me. There's no need for that. It was a well-written story, but you didn't need that element into it, and it would have worked for me better.
I have a couple of questions. Brian, going into the void, into the whatever it's space that it is, I don't know what it is. He goes into this void. He seemingly goes intentionally at the behest of Mr. Ball. When he let go of the TARDIS and disappears off.
Oh, when the doctor's trying to save him as well.
Yeah, he deliberately lets go.
Yeah.
He refuses to be saved. And Mr. Ball that made him do it. Now, the problem with the Ball thing is, I was thinking, I know who the Illithid Mind Flayer things from D&D, but I'm thinking that they're also, I forgot about the Ball thing.
Yeah.
When I watched New Who.
Yeah.
And Mr. Ball was like, is he a split personality inside of him? What's going on here?
That's how I read it. It was a bit like...
for a lot.
I don't know if you guys have seen Batman the animated series, but you've got Scarface, who is a puppet, and the puppet's doing all the bad stuff, and the guy that holds the puppet is very timid, accountant-y kind of thing, and when he's released from the puppet, he's just this. But obviously, it's you kind of don't know who it is, Scarface or the guy that's holding him, and that's sort of how I got Mr. Ball being his sort of.
I'm sorry, but could somebody explain, because it's been a while since I watched the Ood episodes on television. Right, so what's the significance of the ball?
Well, the ball is their brains, isn't it?
That's the brain.
It's the symbol of their brains on display, out of the shell, which shows the Ood are
yes.
Whatever, that trusting.
But why are there two separate characters? Why is the one that refers to the ball in the third person, and why does it refer to it like Mr. Ball is taking over? Or so the Ood, it must be its own entity as well as the ball.
Yeah. So the ball, the ball is the whole. The ball is the brain, and it's all part of the same Ood. But he's obviously got issues upstairs, hasn't he?
Do you think he has
I
issues?
reckon that's it.
Yeah.
Or do you think that it's like we misread what the ball was?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Maybe.
Is the actual ball containing somebody else's personality in there, somebody else's brain?
I think you couldn't come at this story without having to have a little more knowledge of what the Ood is. If you came at it, you'll be instantly thinking, what's going on about with the ball? What's this? You know what I mean? You need a bit more background story of who or what the Ood is. You'd never seen anything about the Ood. You'd be thinking, what's he going on about? Is he talking to a friend? Is he talking to himself?
One reference to tentacles.
That's it. There's too much assumptions that you should already know who this is. So it's not easy listening for someone just coming at it for the first time.
I think the likelihood of anyone listening to this is they're a staunch Doctor Who fan, unless you're being made to listen to it to review on a podcast. John.
One thing I did like was the premise that there is a culture of genetically enhanced children.
Yes.
And the idea that a father can genetically design a child to be the perfect child, and when that child isn't designing it to love him back, is nuts. And the idea that he's done that, and yet she's still gone away. It's like almost.
I like that.
Almost as if it's not a learned thing; it's a natural, innate thing to be gay.
Yeah.
And I thought, good way of doing that to show that.
Do you know what that reminded?
She's been designed to the nth degree to be what her father wants, and yet still
runs away.
Yeah, nature takes over.
That reminded me of, again, if you've listened to the previous episode of Proctor Who, The Expanse, Julie Mao, who is basically, I know she's not designed by her father, but she is put on a pedestal by her father, and then obviously runs away and joins the OPA. It reminded me a little bit of that. Yes, another Expanse reference in Proctor Who, everyone. I might be reading Leviathan Awakes. Don't know if I am. I definitely am. Suki.
I've read all the books that are out, and
brilliant.
I can understand why you're doing that.
Oh, it's brilliant.
What I'm thinking of, because John earlier on said that he couldn't distinguish, and I think Cliff as well, couldn't distinguish between the two girls. Right? I'm wondering if
that's usually your job on Check This Out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Generic horse lady number one.
Well, okay, let me explain. Right, but do you think because of all this genetically enhanced technology that they're doing to create these children, maybe both of them have come from the same sort of stock, and that's why they sound similar?
No, I just think they didn't pick the two right actors.
I thought they had two people with like bog standard BBC accents.
Yeah, they could have just picked some from north, some from south. There would have worked out.
Would have solved it.
Honestly,
that would have solved it.
It would have solved it.
There's a lot of parts in it when, like, the thing is with an audio book, you've got to invest your time into it, and a lot of people can say, "Oh, I can do my work and do that." Well, you can't really sometimes, because if it's a detailed story, you've got to try and listen to it. So it's either sat in a bog, or if you're lucky to fit in a bath, which I don't, so to listen to it. So I'm sat there last night listening to it in bed, and I was listening to it, and honest to God, there's parts in it where I'm thinking, is that Stacey, or is that other one? Is that, or is that the other one?
There's no Stacey in it. So I mean,
oh yeah, see, I was well fucked. What was I listening to?
Is it
Sophie?
Felicity and Sophie? Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, Flick and Sophie.
But I think
there's no Scissor Sister moments either.
That's quite apt from what I was gonna say.
That must have been the one with Stacey.
Yeah, I was loving the same-sex couple thing. I thought that was played very well as well, and written very well. They were kind of basically runaways, and it got that bit why. Why Sophie was looking for Felicity, or whichever way around it was, because obviously it's her wife or person that she loves that's been, gone away or whatever. I just thought it was cool, man. I enjoyed this one. I did enjoy it, and I ended up enjoying this one once I got my head around it.
I mean, I have to say that I didn't enjoy it as much as I perhaps should have done, but what I do enjoy about it is the questions it leaves me about the whole arc And where it fits in this story that we're following, the Time Lord Victorious stuff.
Yeah.
And when the Dalek appeared at the end, when he landed somewhere, I was like, oh, fuck, the fucking Dalek. And I'm typing Dalek in massive letters. And
it was cool, though,
because
because we are all looking for where bits fit in, and that definitely fits in at the end of the comic book Defender of the Daleks, where why is Paul McGann there? Well, why is he there again? And this is coming together into something now.
I think once you fit everything in, it might be one of those eureka moments where when we find out what Athana is, we might just go, oh my god, that makes sense. Oh, I like it again. I'll listen to it again to fully understand
the planet,
it. How it works.
Is that the planet Athana?
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest story part. The Dalek at the end is the other one that comes in.
The Time Lord Victorious is that's going to be a part of that.
That's going to be a big expanse thing.
Athana is a water planet, and the Doctor went there to see a mighty statue, one of the wonders of the universe. And when he arrives, Athana has become a barren desert planet.
Do you know what?
He's reading off the fucking internet.
I'm reading off the wiki, I am.
You can see, Well, I missed. But he also mentions the moons, that there's a sun or a moon,
Two suns.
which is different. Yeah,
which again is Mos Eisley.
That's
true. And Tatooine and all that bullshit.
I missed that bit. I thought the Doctor had just landed on the wrong planet again. I didn't realise that. I forgot. I did.
Well, this is what I mean. He also refers to the next planet up, which he misnames. So something is thinking that something is switched. He's gone to an alternate.
Yeah, or parallel universe.
Or he's gone back to a serious time in history for both of them. Because Wild West, you could see...
Oh, well into the future, like a Mars...
But the thing is, though, that if you've got the technology to be able to genetically choose your offspring, how does that technology fit into the technology we see? Well, we do see robots and stuff, but it's in a Wild West with corrugated iron. That's the bit that breaks it a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I think with do you know what I do like now? I've got it in my head is the fact that Brian has his own brain in his head, and he has someone else's brain as the ball.
But do all the Ood have that all the time? This is the thing.
Yeah. Is it
one of these? Is it one of these situations where the ball subsumes the intellect of the Ood, and so it's dominant? Maybe this is a situation where it's not being able to do that fully.
I do love that idea. If it is. I do love
Maybe it's something as far as they can swap it over. Maybe it's been surgically changed over.
Words of gummy, that's what brings, swap a head over just to perform a...
Never know.
No, I do like that.
Niche 80s reference.
I do like that.
It's a Doctor Who reference.
We're gonna hand over Down Under to our satellite office
Good night, lads.
in Australia.
Can't have a shrimp and a bar.
Apologies for these terrible Australian accents. We're going to hand over
not me, Dwayne, or Philip. I have not said a word.
To the delightful.
By the way, no, you can go to it if you want. I was just going to say something about Dwayne's podcast.
Yeah, we'll give that a shout out.
Podcast review, and it was fucking ace. I loved it.
I found out
about loads of podcasts.
The
one with John Hadley on it.
Sirens of Audio's recent podcast, they have gone through loads of podcast recommendations and their views.
Really good, really good.
And I was nice words as well.
And they said nice things about us, which was lovely. But great lads, I love listening to the pair of them. They were well thrown together, Dwayne and Philip from the Sirens of Audio podcast. But definitely,
and they're proper good at podcasting. That's the annoying thing.
Yeah,
because in fact, it's like he's come to it quite late, as he said, but like Dwayne's a natural. That's why.
And there are some awesome guests on there as well.
He gets some really interesting guests on because he's that good.
Yeah, all Big Finish. Yeah, all Big Finish.
Anyway, roll fucking tape, Bob. Roll tape.
Anyway, we're going to hand over Down Under to Dwayne and Philip from the Sirens of Audio podcast.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Here we are. Thanks for inviting us back onto Proctor Who. It's great to be able to talk about the things that we love, Philip, and that is audio through Time Lord Victorious. This time we're going to be talking about Time Lord Victorious, He Kills Me Not, by Carrie Thompson. What were your initial thoughts, Philip?
Well, I loved it in terms of a lot of the ideas, and there's bits in terms of it's not a huge, complex story. It's certainly nothing epic or monumental, but in terms of it's a amusing western. It's got some interesting characters, and I just loved Brian the Ood. So I think, if anything, the thing that made this for me was having Brian the Ood appear. He's amusing, the way he talks to Mr. Ball. the way he threatens people. He was just an interesting character, interesting baddie. And hearing Silas... Oh, I forgot his name. The actor.
Silas Carson.
Silas Carson, thank you. Hearing Silas Carson was just great.
It was interesting going back and listening to this for... I listened to it another couple of times, actually, because there were bits of this story. It's one of those ones where you got to focus on completely all the way through, otherwise you miss little bits. It's all explained, but you've got to be careful that you don't let your mind wander too much. When I listened to this for the first time, I was very excited. It was the first full story that was released on audio in the Time Lord Victorious series. Last month we reviewed Echoes of Extinction. So by that stage we'd heard all the Time Lord Victorious audios, but this was the first full cast one with the 8th Doctor, written by Carrie Thompson. So she hasn't written too much for Big Finish, but what she had written, I had listened to just before hearing this. So she'd written a short trip called The Second Oldest Question, which was a 5th Doctor Nyssa story, so read by Sarah Sutton. I don't know if you remember it, Philip. Do you remember that, The Second Oldest Question?
I do remember it, and I actually looked up again today when we just have a quick listen to the beginning of it, because I was curious as to have a little hit to her style.
Yeah, so anyone who likes this particular story by Carrie Thompson, go and check out the short trip, The Second Oldest Question. It is a really, really quirky story and written in such a different style that I was very excited about this one. But you're right, this one is more of a straight down the line run of the mill. Well, it's not run of the mill. It's a basic story. It's not overly complex. It was very engaging. The links to Time Lord Victorious on second listen have become more apparent to me. So the Doctor, there's a big Time Lord Victorious sort of plot point in here where the planet he's arrived on is supposed to be this ocean world, but it's not. So something is going on with time. Some timeline has jumped, and the Doctor is saying something's not right here because this planet is not how I remember it. So I thought that was very interesting. He's still searching for those 700 wonders of the world, and wondering why the one he's seeking is not here, which is a throwback to Echoes of Extinction 2, the last audio chronologically in the Time Lord Victorious series. I did note at the time that the 8th Doctor was sounding tired. I don't know if that's done on purpose by Paul McGann and the production team, because it's sort of towards the end of perhaps the 8th Doctor's life. He's sort of trying to run away from the Time War, and he's in that particular period. So he's been around for a while, and he's sounding very tired. What did you feel that too, Philip? Or
it was a bit hard to know. I mean, they use the Time War theme, so it's telling us it is towards the very end of Paul McGann's stint. So they
which I don't like, by the way.
You don't like that theme?
No. I just can't. I can't sort of gel with any 8th Doctor theme other than the David Arnold theme. It's just not right to me.
Oh, so I really enjoy it. I love all the clanging metal and the banging bits and pieces and the percussion and.
It's used for the War Doctor, and it's used for. I think it's used for one of the 7th Doctor novels as well.
Oh, that's the War Master.
I think it was used for.
Is it used for the War Master as well, or does he have a different theme?
No, he's got a different theme. So I think it's used for at least 2 Doctors, if not 3. So, it's not specific to the 8th Doctor. It's good, but to me, it just doesn't gel with the 8th Doctor.
Okay, well, I like it. I guess it's interesting.
You skip them.
Yeah, I do. No, I stopped to listen to it today, so there you go. Because it actually kept me listening rather than skipping it today. I do enjoy the storyline. I do like the idea of it being a Western is amusing, and so I think it does capture a lot of those ideas, those early Western ideas, which I think are great. I do think that there's a typical range of characters. It's almost like the Gunfighters, and there's lots of bits that. Certainly in my head, I'm picturing the Gunfighter set. I'm picturing the canteen and the Doctor's surgery. They use the same locations as they use for the Gunfighters. I don't know how deliberate that is.
I must admit, I did think along those exact same lines too, although it's not as funny as the Gunfighters. I did think the same, yeah.
So, I think it's a little bit to that. I think Scott's done a marvellous job. It's one of the first things they actually did in lockdown. And so in terms of being able to pull a cast, it's a very young cast, and most of the casts haven't appeared in anything else. And it's just that the authors have only done one other piece for Big Finish. Do you think the Time Lord Victorious set has been a good opportunity for Big Finish to test out new writers and to feel safe in doing that in terms of, the old Big Finish stalwarts aren't going to care too much in terms of this range necessarily. So a lot of the writers are trying out new things. So I think that works well in terms of this story and trying out a new writer. So I think there's some great stuff in it. As I said, I do like a country, a western, and this does that well.
And what did you think of Brian as a character? Brian the Ood. When I first heard the name before this was released, I knew this character was coming. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous. It sounds like it can't possibly work. But my feeling at the time was, no, this is Big Finish. They have got a good track record of seemingly crazy things being put forward to us to consume, but they usually end up doing a fantastic job. And I think this was a typical example of that, something that you don't think could possibly work. And this was absolutely perfect. The dialogue that Brian the Ood was given was sensational. It was funny. He was terrifying. You felt a bit sorry for him at times. It was just a great character, and it's probably what got me interested to expand in the Time Lord Victorious universe. And I started looking forward to the books that were coming out to find out a lot more about Brian.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brian is probably the standout thing that makes the whole thing work. I'm not sure it would work the same way without him and his humour and the way he's written. Just go back to the thing that you were saying before too, it's making me think in terms of the whole Time Lord Victorious series. One of the things I thought listening through it in terms of actually things that weren't answered, and it's interesting having now listened to everything and read a number of the books, so I dipped into quite a bit more of the Time Lord Victorious than I meant to. I'm actually feeling like it's actually not gelling together to me as well as I thought it would do. So having done, we talked about the first story, the Echoes of Extinction. I'm trying to think what else is coming between now and then. But certainly as I look at the whole package, I'm not seeing all the links that clearly. And having now listened to everything, read the books, I thought the second time going through, I'd see the links a bit more clearly than I am. I know that they wanted things to be standalone-ish, but it's obviously pointing for things, but I'm not sure everything always picks up properly.
I get exactly what you're saying. I was thinking the same thing. I'm picking up on the big arc inferences, but how they all fit together, I'm also finding myself thinking, maybe I should go back and read the books again. Maybe I should watch the Daleks animation again, and because obviously this one ends on a cliffhanger and goes, I think it goes directly into the next one,
yeah, it does.
Which is the enemy of my enemy. So, and it was the enemy of my enemy, the one straight after this, that really brought home those Dalek characters that we first saw in the Dalek animation. So, you make a very good point there. It's got the Time Lord Victorious banner on it, but yeah, it's still, having heard everything that I have, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Now that I think of it too.
So what about some of the themes? Is there anything that stood out for you that you weren't so impressed with, Dwayne?
Well, there was, Philip, because I've spoken to you about it.
Oh, I was leading into casually, so no one would notice the fact that we may have talked about it first.
Look, people say that Doctor Who has always addressed political issues, but I think we're in a period in history where individuals, like never before, have been so engaged politically, because we get that instantaneous engagement through social media, and we can react straight away. Like, for instance, when the Green Death was made back in 1973, yes, the oil crisis and climate change was a political issue, but the only way people could engage with it was by talking to their local member, or by reading the newspaper and then talking to family. They couldn't actually get so involved and so hyped up about it. They'd read the newspaper and then get on with the rest of their day. All right, so political issues, yes, they've always been there, but when they're put in Doctor Who today, they can be much more reactionary. And I got one of those reactions in this, in as much as part of the plot of this story was that the girls were running away, or one of the girls in particular was running away from her father because there wasn't too much said about this particular culture that she'd come from, that the parents were creating these designer babies to basically be servants to them, and the children were supposed to be servants to them. And she was making comments throughout the play saying how her father just wanted to control her, and it just reminds me of the noise that's being made throughout a lot of social circles, political circles at the moment, about patriarchy and how horrible it is, and how everyone's got to rebel against it, and it's not a particular viewpoint that I share, so it sort of got my back up a little bit, and I didn't notice it the first time around, but I've been I was a little bit more sensitive to it this time, so I didn't like that aspect about it. But when I was talking to you about it, Philip, you made a good point too, that there's younger writers coming in, I should say, with less experience, and they've got these viewpoints and they want to express them, and they're possibly doing it in ways that aren't quite so subtle. Well, it certainly wasn't subtle to me anyway. It annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah, the thing that struck me listening to it actually did strike me last time, and I thought maybe it's just I'm a grumpy old man with lots of kids, and I hear my kids whinging all the time about being controlled, and that's not fair. Yeah. It is something that adolescents go through, and I've actually done marking for. We have an exam in Sydney, in New South Wales, called the Basic Skills Test, where we test every child, year 5, 7, 9, 3, 5, 7, and 9, and they have to do a piece of writing. And I actually have, for a couple of years, a few years back, marked all this adolescent writing, all this year 9's writing, and every second story had something about how awful parents were and how controlling they were, and I just thought I'll just grow up. And to me, it was just adolescent writing, and people grow out of it. You see a bit of it in the Twilight series and other things in terms of which is for adolescents. So I just to me it was sort of thrown in there, and I sort of thought, it's a writer who's young, and one day she'll grow up and she'll appreciate her parents more.
We can only hope.
We can only hope.
But apart from that, that's the one thing that sort of nickled me a bit. But the story itself, really good to listen to. It's always good to hear Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor, and really looking forward to the next one. Because it finished on a cliffhanger and went straight into it. I think these two, this one and the next one, were released within about a week of each other, so we virtually got them at the same time. Or were they released on the same day?
I think they may be the same day. My memory.
I think you might be right. But anyway, looking forward to having a listen to that one for next month. Yeah. So back to you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob, for having us again.
Well, thank you very much, Dwayne and Philip, for your review. Probably a sensible review, as ours will. Oh, actually, to be fair, I think this
significantly less sweary than normal.
Yeah,
who's missing? Exactly.
You know what I mean? This is very well behaved.
All I said is Scissor Sisters once. That's it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, is that Craig Stimpson's?
We've not said cunt once either, so it's good.
No cunts, fuck, shit, bastard.
None of that shit.
Nothing.
I'll keep my mouth shut over this.
Sucky's been well behaved as well.
It's usually you, Sucky.
I've got a song to prove it, which I'll insert now on. So I'm just going to come around and get everyone's final thoughts on He Kills Me, Kills Me Not. Sucky, I'll come to you first. Have you got any, just to round us off with your thoughts on this?
No, it's a very good story. I really enjoyed Paul McGann's performance in it. I did like the sheriff and her interaction with the doctor that was in the town. Brian, the Ood, is very, very menacing, and he's just evil by the looks of it, just pure evil. But I just think this story is just a small, compact story with only a small little bit to the Time Lord Victorious saga, and I really, really did enjoy it.
Good. John?
Yeah, I would echo much of that. I think the bits like Brian the Ood fell into the void thing, he's not dead, so he's liable to turn up at some other point, I reckon.
And I hope he does.
I think the story is a nice, well compact one, as you said. But Paul McGann was great as well, and I think I got an idea of how his doctor is and what he's like, and I like that. It feels rounded. The Eighth Doctor is, every time I hear a bit extra, it's getting a little bit more rounded as a thing. And the TV movie is one thing, but yeah. I think the where it ties in with Time Lord Victorious is the best part of this for me. And I think going forward, finding out what this means is going to merit a re-listen. So yeah, I could hear bits of the Time Lord Victorious saga coming together in this. Yeah, there were only 30 seconds or whatever, but rather than the last maybe couple we've done, I didn't really hear them coming through. Whereas this one, I'm hearing it. It's good because this is quite an epic journey we're doing. So cool. I mean, to be fair, they've been fairly consistent about it. They've been in every story for me. I've been, especially after the first couple, all the Time of Victorious have got like snippets in them that are starting to build into a bigger story, and it's quite exciting.
Definitely bits there, and it's nice that we can still put a bit of theory into this as well, because we don't know what's happening, which is good.
Exactly.
Cliff.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It is with a few faults, but I'm hoping that the more this puzzle of the Time Lord Victorious unravels, that I'll be one to go back and appreciate and go, oh yeah, it was just me being a dick. But Brian was superbly acted. It was a good write. I really like this Doctor. I could hear more of him. It's actually spurred me on to get some more Big Finish downloaded to listen to Paul McGann as well.
Paid for on the Big Finish website, bigfinish.com.
Pardon? Do you have to pay for it? So on this journey, what we have with Time Lord Victorious, I think that makes it more interesting. If it was a standalone story, I still would have enjoyed it, but not as much. It's the part that we're finding out those little nuggets as we're going through each one, and we're trying to connect them, and that's what makes this, separate bonus podcast fun as well, because each time we're finding new parts, finding new people. Brian's definitely got to come in. It's a brilliant character. He's definitely in the future, and hopefully more of his malice, or maybe an explanation of it goes forward. But loving it, loving the journey as well.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool to talk about it as well. Well, next up, we have another audio Big Finish. It's called The Enemy of My Enemy. It looks like a Paul McGann Big Finish. So yeah, another Big Finish. So we'll be hearing from Dwayne and Philip from the Sirens of Audio as well. But thank you very much for listening. And talking to Dwayne, he's picked the song this time to play us out, and it is a Sydney-based band. Well, we'll find out, won't we? It's a song called Emergent by a band called Sleep Makes Waves. So until next time, thank you for listening and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.